long-term method acting of the worst senator ever.
No, we're not talking about Bernie. We're talking about Chuck Schumer.
Chuck Schumer.
I am welcoming back Mr. John Graziano. He is also on Twitter under what name?
At JV Graz. Also, depending on how I'm feeling, either Angry Jon Snow or Gentleman Jon Snow. I think I told you how that came up.
Yeah, the angry eyebrow was first, I believe.
Well, yeah, but the gentleman thing was, if you do a Google image search on my avatar, for some reason their best guess comes back as gentleman. Which, like,
do you have
what?
Like an ascot or a monocle?
It's very strange. The interesting thing is, I don't know. I mean, my name actually means sort of gracious or gentlemanly. So, weird coincidence.
That's very interesting. And it's interesting that it doesn't necessarily match you very well.
There's a theory that it was meant ironically.
We are going to, you guys, I'm going to be watching the comments as well. So this is like, you know, when I have guys like, you know, like John or Peter Douche or things like that, I like to just kind of freestyle because we just kind of rant over the week's news and the shitty candidates and things like that. So first, you know, I want to talk about Kamala because she's a mess and she's the one people post about the most. There's been a few, I don't want to say developments, but a few interesting things have happened during the past few days. Well, first off, I want to give a shout out to her because it's 4 weeks without a platform on her page.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's awesome.
I think, well, Cory Booker still doesn't have one either, but he announced later. I think, you know, as gross as that is, that she has no platform, I think it's really, really, really abhorrent that all of her supporters really don't care.
They not only don't care, they have their talking points in order already. Which is, it doesn't matter what the platform is. It matters what the candidate says
and what the aesthetic is.
Yeah. They're also pulling that for she doesn't need a record. The people who ran on most experienced or most qualified candidate ever, like 2 years ago, and they're now doing the your record doesn't matter because they're running people whose records are atrocious.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that's, you know, she still has no platform. On that note, somebody asked her, I believe it was Saturday when she was trying on that heinous outfit that all the news media was propping up. Did you see that?
Say that one more time. I was screwing around with the UI.
She was trying on some atrocious rainbow jacket thing, and the news media was like taking photos and like, oh my god, yes, queen, and it was really heinous. And they were all flipping out over it, and there were like thousands of comments and likes, and it's like, you don't have a platform and you're shopping. So when she was stopped to actually talk, to actually ask, you know, they were actually going to ask her questions. And they said to her, you know, you're in New Hampshire and Bernie won New Hampshire and he's, you know, describes himself as a democratic socialist.
Yes, I saw that.
And she's like,
go ahead and finish.
What's that?
I just said, go ahead and finish the story.
She said, you know, do you feel like you're a democratic socialist? Because you would need to identify with the people of New Hampshire as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
she said, no, I'm not a democratic socialist, and I'll wait for the people of New Hampshire to tell me what they want.
Yeah, that was the not democratic socialist thing. In some ways, was a high point, because she actually admitted to having a political position on something, which we haven't gotten a lot of. The thing that was by far the low point and the most troubling point is, I'll wait till I see what people want, and then I will become that.
Exactly. Exactly. Like if you're running for president and someone says to you, you know, what do you stand for? And you say, I'll wait till the people of New Hampshire tell me. That's a problem. Like,
yeah,
it's really gross.
Well, it's not only gross. It's like, why do you need New Hampshire? We know what the people want: Medicare for all, free college, living wage. You know, those things are not hard to figure out. It's on every poll. They're the most popular policies in the country. What are you waiting for? What do you got to go to New Hampshire to figure that out for?
Well, because unfortunately, a lot of people who, you know, I've considered progressives for 2 years, since, you know, for 3 years since our movement really took off, are saying, oh, you know, Elizabeth Warren and stuff. And I'm like, you guys, you can't just take words. Like, you can't just think, lump them together and think that, oh, you know, they all want Medicare for all. No, Elizabeth Warren does not want Medicare for all. She has made that very clear. She gave several rallies and never mentioned the words Medicare for all, and has since started talking about enhancing the ACA. Fuck that. She doesn't want Medicare for all. She still takes corporate money. She always has. Like, people just assume because people label them as progressive, they don't have to do their research. And we do. We all have to still do our research. We have to hold people accountable. We can't just say, I mean, we've complained about Hillary supporters doing that for years, just taking things at face value. Well, a lot of people are doing that now too. And we have to look into this shit. It's not just sound bites. Like, this is important. We're at the point where we have like a year and a half before, you know, primaries start. But at the same time, it is the time when we have the leverage. So if somebody is being inauthentic, now is the time we have to be like, fuck you, you're full of shit. You don't really support Medicare for all. You need to support it. You need to sign on. You need to bring legislation and prove to us you want this. We have that upper hand right now. We can say, we're not going to vote for you unless, you know, and people aren't doing that. They're just being complacent and saying, oh, well, she supports Medicare for all. She's progressive. No.
Yeah, well, I think everyone wants that, right? Everyone wants to find the perfect candidate. Everyone wants the person they like, or the person that's running, to be the perfect candidate. And you see these people over and over and over again doing just like forcing their hopes and dreams onto whoever they kind of have decided they like. And for some people, that's Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren is the new savior. You know, I've never been a fan of hers because she's dishonest, and she's provably dishonest. And once you start answering questions dishonestly, once you start playing word games to avoid saying where you actually are on a position, which she's done a number of times. Anytime someone asks her about Israel, for example, you see her just completely dodge. And once you see that happen, once you see a candidate choose to be dishonest, in order to hide their actual political positions, Well, then we're back to Hillary with the public and private positions. Then you start asking, well, how far does this go? How many things is she lying about?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so once I get that feeling from a politician, it's almost an unrecoverable situation for me, because it's like, well, you're choosing to lie, and this is just saying, and we don't need more.
Yeah, absolutely. We, you know, as a movement, I feel like we're getting very lazy, and we're not holding these people accountable, because we're so obsessed with this word progressive, and we're so obsessed with, you know, Medicare for all and free college tuition and stuff, that we're just like ready to accept anyone who says it. And it's, you know, there are people who support it and who have acted on it, and there are people who are using sound bites.
Well, we'll accept people who never say it, right? Look at the propaganda around Obama, around Andrew Gillum, around Beto O'Rourke. These are people who, you hear the phrase come up, hold their feet to the fire. We need to hold their feet to the fire, right? And what that means is this: once we've done all the activism, once we've done all the campaigning, the phone banking and everything else, and you actually put the person you want in office, then you turn around to this degrading operation that you have to go through on an almost daily basis of, quote unquote, holding their feet to the fire. Well, what does that actually mean? Well, we complain a lot and they don't listen because we're not the ones paying. Right. And so the whole hold their feet to the fire thing, to me, is a complete non-starter. You get somebody in there who will do what you need them to do without having to be asked, because they ran on it, because they presented the policies you want. And if they're not running on it, if they're not presenting the policies you want, then don't vote for them. There's pretty much what you're left with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's such a clusterfuck of, I mean, there's candidates, honestly, some of them I never heard of. Who is this Buttigieg guy? I started seeing stuff.
That's a new one.
Buttigieg, it's like Butteig or something. Buttigieg.
I'll just say I inherently support anyone with butt in their name. I think
you do support anyone with butt in their name.
Yeah, he'll have to have some pretty wild policies. I think I found my candidate.
I kind of feel bad for him, unless he's an asshole, no pun intended. That
please tell me his first name is Richard.
I don't know, but that would be fucking amazing.
I saw some of this pop up on Twitter today, but I was doing some driving and I haven't had a chance to really explore it. There's the Yang guy who's super into UBI, who has identified as a Democrat. You have to be careful with people who are in favor of UBI.
Trust me, I know.
Because a lot of these, is it the progressive UBI, or is it the libertarian Peter Thiel UBI, where basically we just create this permanent underclass of people who have been rendered completely unemployable by automation, and then you have a complete separation of society where you do have the worker drones, and then you have the billionaires who are sitting on top. That's sort of the dream society that they have, and they just want to pay a lot of the people this tiny sum of money, which $1,000 a month is a ridiculously tiny sum of money, to go away.
Right. And from reading studies from other countries, it's like they were taking away all other social, programs. So like no more Social Security, no more unemployment, things like this. And they were just giving that amount. So you're talking, okay, your 80-year-old parents make $1,200 a month on Social Security. Now they make $1,000. Yeah. So I want to see like what he's talking about, because well, first of all, I support UBI with a federal job guarantee. Like if you do that, or, you know, I need to see what else he's talking about. He sent me a friend request on Facebook, so I think I may just ask him to come on so we can discuss some of this, because I'm kind of unclear what exactly he, you know, what's leading him into the UBI. But
yeah, I kind of think it's the second one.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the comments too. Mark said that he wants Buddy Gig's first name to be Phil as well.
Oh yeah, Phil. That wouldn't be bad. We're all children here.
Oh, we got a Trump 2020. Thanks, Ed. Ed, while you're commenting, what do you like about Trump? Why does he have your vote? What do you think he's doing well? Honest question.
Are we waiting for Ed to say something?
No, I'm going to keep going, but I wanted to say.
Yeah, I have to say I don't understand the Trump supporters, especially when they see their tax returns this year.
Oh my God, I am so scared to do mine.
Right.
So terrifying.
So yeah, for most of the people who work for a living, their refunds are going to be down because Trump rewrote a bunch of laws to keep you from deducting things, and he's basically making the people who voted for him pay for people like him to have the lifestyle they have. And I'm not sure how people can watch that and say, oh yeah, he's our guy. And Ed, you said he's pro-life. Well, pro-life in what way? He supports the death penalty. He supports a bloody coup in Venezuela. He supports a war in Yemen. Do those babies not count, Ed?
He's taking Meals on Wheels away from people.
Yeah.
He's taking school lunches away from people. He's wants to cut back Social Security. So how is that pro-life? And yes,
Andy says he's pro-white life. And he's pro-white.
This is true.
He's pro-fetus, but he's not really. It's not really. I guarantee you, if Trump got one of his porn stars pregnant, he'd be marching her to the abortion clinic with a wad of bills in her hand.
Well, he told Howard Stern he did.
Yeah. He did. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, we've actually seen him lie about everything. Why would you buy that he's pro-life? Unless you do, that's doing the same thing that we do with the progressive candidates, right? He's like, oh, I want this to be my guy. I'm going to put my hopes and dreams on this guy, and I'm going to ignore all the evidence that he's not the guy I want him to be.
Right. And did you know that he got he paid for a woman to have an abortion? You can listen to it on Howard Stern. Yeah.
I think at some point, no offense, Ed, but if you're a Trump supporter, and I don't mean a Trump voter, because there are a lot of people who voted for Trump. Most of the people who voted for Trump were voting against Hillary.
Right.
And you can agree or disagree with that, but at the time, given the two candidates they had, you can see it was a rational consideration, even if you think their conclusion was wrong. So I think most of the people who voted for Trump, I think the poll that I saw was like 52% of the people who voted for Trump were votes against Hillary. And like 48% of the people who voted for Hillary were votes against Trump, which I love that Hillary literally generated more votes for Trump than she did for herself.
Yeah, that's funny.
So, yeah, I think that what you have with, what you see with Ed and a lot of these Trump supporters are people who, and Ed, I'm not trying to say this to you, I don't know you, I'm talking collectively. people who have been so screwed for so long, they've simply checked out of the political process. And then all of a sudden, some dude starts throwing bombs and like, oh, hey, what's that? That's different. Different is good. Let's go with different. And then I think some people got carried away. There's definitely people who, and again, I'm just going to say, Ed, just consider what I'm saying is not specifically about you. But there is a strong contingent of just hardcore racism, hardcore natalism, hardcore white nationalism that says he's our guy. And then there are the people who don't realize that this is an effete, fancy lad, private school billionaire who coats his toilets in gold. How do you relate to that? I mean, Trump is so soft. He just has nothing that speaks, leadership or gumption or ability to do any of the jobs that we have to do every day, because the dude's never really had to work for a living. He's just stolen from other people and inherited money from his dad.
I don't know that Ed's a real person, because he just said Trump is progressive.
Nah. I respect a good troll. So
I mean, he's progressively an asshole. I mean, but
well, we're not going to have that debate on whether Trump is progressive or not. The fact is, there was a little bit where it's like, maybe not, I wouldn't say inherently progressive, but the dude is so clueless. He could have ushered in the communist utopia and not realize he did it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he was very non-interventionist when he ran for president, just because he never bothered to understand his party's positions on anything and just was shooting from the hip. And shooting from the hip goes both ways. Now he's not doing it anymore. He's surrounded himself with basically the Bush crime family, and he's just doing what they tell him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is stay out of the way and let us drive.
You're right. He is doing a horrible job, Ed. Cheers.
Yeah, converted Ed. Welcome to our side, Ed.
Thank you. We convinced him. Yay.
But, the one thing I do want to talk about Trump, since we mentioned evidence, is that Senate committee, the Senate Intelligence Committee, who, after all of this time, had to say they found no evidence of a link between Trump and Russia or collusion between Trump and Russia.
And people don't acknowledge it.
Oh yeah, they desperately want to make that go away. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think there are a bunch of hardcore grifters like Rachel Maddow and Joanne Reed, who want the ratings, who want the controversy, who want the conspiracy theory to be true. These guys at this point, we can call them truthers. So these guys are Russiagate truthers, because they're just simply ignoring the fact that there's no evidence. And I'm not saying it definitely didn't happen, as Jimmy Dore says, because people ask him all the time, Jimmy, what are you going to do when we find evidence that Trump colluded with Russia? I'm going to report on it. And I'd say, hey, there's finally some freaking evidence. Good job. Haven't seen any of that yet. And the Russiagators are just not going to let it go. And so you have the hardcore grifters. And then you have a lot of people like my old friends at TYT, unfortunately. I think there's a lot of people who are driven by the realization that they have been so wrong for so long. They are either going to have to eat like a truckload of crow, or they're going to have to just hang on a little while longer to hope something comes out that they can say, there, he bribed somebody in Russia, or he gave them a free hotel room or something like that. And that's it. That's the whole deal. We got it. We broke the case wide open.
Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
going to happen. Sorry. I mean, I just don't think that's going to happen.
Well, and what cracks me up is when, you know, people talk about Bernard and, you know, Russia, and I'm like, if they are so close, why the fuck did we lose the primary? Are you telling me that, like, Putin's a strong, amazing man who can rig elections and he's like BFFs with Bernie and he didn't even have us win the primary? What's that about? Putin hasn't even apologized to us for that shit.
It's amazing to me to see the wishful thinking, you know, just the power of wishful thinking. I think a lot of people genuinely want Trump out of office, and they think the impeachment process is the way to go. I think you need to readjust your expectations. I mean, the Democrats in the House, led by the glorious Nancy Pelosi, couldn't even manage to send the Yemen resolution to the Senate. Okay, they couldn't even manage to send "Let's stop committing genocide in Yemen" to the Senate. Now, maybe it's going to lose in the Senate, but you get those guys on record as voting. House couldn't even do that. So if you think there's going to be impeachment, after Pelosi has repeatedly said she's not going to impeach him, she's not going to impeach Kavanaugh, who's, you know, been shown repeatedly to have lied under oath, then what? I mean, what good are you?
Well, and you know, the funny thing is, people are yes queen about Pelosi, and you know, her stupid, pathetic clap that she said she did in earnest, because, you know, she welcomed his words. That's what she said. But everyone's like, oh my God, look, she's being, you know, facetious, and she's so savage, and you know, it was just so pathetic. And
we're ignoring the big story, which is Nancy Pelosi actually admitted to doing something in earnest for the first time in her life.
True. That was
without checking with her donors. Maybe she had a little cell phone that she was texting back and forth. But she had her BlackBerry out. She was just saying, "Is it okay if I clap? Can I clap? How many times should I clap?" But
oh my God, I can't.
She's not clapping for anything good. I mean, she's not clapping for anything good. She also applauded Trump saying we will never be a socialist country, as did Elizabeth Warren. And so those are the people who you can't trust. Those are the people who are looking at the donors and the ruling elite and whoever has money, and they want to be them. They don't want to be us.
Absolutely. They one of the other interesting things is people have been talking about impeachment with Trump since literally before he took office. Like November 9th, impeachment. He hadn't even, it wasn't even January 20th yet. They were talking about impeachment. And I don't think people still have this idea that impeachment means they swoop into the office, they take him out in handcuffs, and it's immediate, and he's done, and he goes to prison, and all of those things. And it's like we had an impeachment in our lifetime, and it was for a different reason. But if people would educate themselves, they would see that it was a very long, tedious trial. Nothing came of it. He still served his 8 years. They're banking on something that is not inevitable. It is not solidified. They've been talking about impeachment for over 2 years. It still has not happened. They're saying impeachment for things that are not illegal. You know, if you want to say it for certain things, like, you know, certain things he's doing are not illegal, and they're saying impeach. That's not how it works. It's not. I mean, that you can't
technically you can impeach him for anything, right? You can impeach him for anything. He wore some bad, you know, his socks didn't match. So that's a misdemeanor. That's totally impeachable offense, because the crafters of our Constitution in their infinite wisdom never really put anything specific in that document. So it's all open to interpretation, or quite a bit of it is open to interpretation.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, it's such a mess. And
Well, yeah. I
with
don't know why people. I don't know why people worship the Constitution as if it's, you know, it's handed down from on high, like the Ten Commandments or something. It wasn't. It was written by men, wealthy white men who held slaves, who wanted to protect their property.
right, right. As far as Pelosi, I usually also point out that Trump endorsed her and offered
Yeah.
to help his Republican colleagues rally for her to get reelected. People always like to forget that. But
People forget that, but watch what happens if one person on the neo-lib shit list endorses Bernie. Watch them all lose their minds.
see,
Someone we've said is persona non grata, so that they've decided, and Bernie's associated with this person. They must be terrible.
Yep. And it's like you have Kamala, Cory Booker, Hillary, all of them received money from Trump. All of them. Yeah. Yet, when are they giving it back? I haven't heard anything. They, you know, here's what's interesting. Trump was a Republican when he gave to all of them, which is funny.
Well, he was a Democrat for a long time, too.
He was. He switched back and forth. Yeah. So it's really interesting to see how people are like, you know, I mean, isn't that just further proof that there are so many commonalities between the Dems and the Republicans?
Well, I mean, they're basically the corporate party of America. You know, the Democrats are just the peasant outreach wing of the Republicans. They're there to sell right-wing policies to the peasants.
Yeah, absolutely. And the people who are vote blue no matter who are why we're not having progress, because they're saying, regardless of what you do, you have our vote. You don't have to say anything except but Trump. You can still rig elections. You can still, you know, not offer so many of those vote blue no matter who.
Yeah, I mean, once you tell a politician you have to do nothing to get my vote, that's exactly what they're going to do.
Absolutely. That's so sad. And you know, Ed is now saying that Bernie's not going to happen. Well, you know, obviously a lot of us want him to win. Do we think it's feasible? Maybe not. But the thing is, I think it's so important that he runs, because when he's on that debate stage, he's going to inadvertently hold everyone else accountable to go more left. He's going to be the one on the debate stage that talks about Medicare for all. And then the pundits are going to say to, you know, Gillibrand and Warren and stuff, how do you feel about Medicare for all? And they're going to be cornered. And they're going to have to answer.
I think they already have their answer, and it's going to be a bunch of nonsense word salad that, you know, the mainstream media will just eat up. They'll just love it. Oh, look at how presidential they looked by not answering that question, but seeming like they did. I mean, they're already doing the thing with Kamala, who says absolutely nothing about absolutely everything. And they just love it, because this is what either they've been programmed, or more likely they're trying to program us to believe that this is what a professional candidate looks like. Someone who spouts a bunch of nonsense platitudes and never commits to an actual policy. And the thing is, you know, it's another reason why Trump was effective. Actually, he didn't do that. I mean, his word salad was just from, I think, minor aneurysms that he has, but his word salad was usually committing to a policy. I mean, he committed to a policy, and then, you know, he changed 5 days later when he talked to somebody else. but he didn't sound like a normal BS politician, and neither did Bernie, and that's why they were the two most popular candidates in that race.
They were both anti-establishment. They were different, but they were both anti-corporation and anti-establishment. Granted, Bernie, was filled with $27 donations from We the People, and Trump, had his own money, but still they were both anti-establishment, and the people spoke, and that's what they wanted. There's something else about Kamala that I believe you saw as well. Her dad actually came out the other day and ripped her one and said that, yeah, he doesn't appreciate her pandering.
Whoops, bumping my laptop. By the way, I apologize for how I look like I'm introducing an episode of The Twilight Zone. Imagine if you were. It looked fine when the sun was up, but I didn't account for that whole rotation of the planet as a window I was facing. I also really love the whole like E.T. Adams apple I got going on here with the light from the mic. So awesome job, so sorry, what were you saying? I was consumed with looking at my own.
I was talking about her dad calling her out.
Okay, so a lot of people like that. I gotta say that was a shitty move, Dad. That was a dick move, Dad. That you're up for shitty Father of the Year. First off, the quickest way to piss me off is to make me feel sympathy for one of these idiots. And I felt sympathy for Kamala having to live with that father, because you don't do that. You pick up the phone. If like with my family, if I did something in public that pissed them off, my phone would ring and they'd be like, "What the fuck, dude?" But they wouldn't be going on Twitter and denouncing me. And the fact that her father did that, I think, shed a lot of light into the environment she grew up in. And I got to say, not that I will ever vote for her or support her for president, but it made me sympathize with her just a little bit. That was a total dick move. That was a total dick move.
It was. I was like, wow, that is, I can't even fathom if my parents did that. Like, oh my God, that's harsh.
Yeah. It also shows, I mean, her dad's like a college professor, right? She grew up in wealth. She was a wealthy kid, living in Montreal, Canada, right? And it also shows that the hope that anyone has that Kamala is going to be able to sympathize or empathize with their situation. We've already seen that she's incapable of doing it. When she starts talking about affordable access to whatever she's talking about, affordable means a very different thing to her than it does to us. What?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that bothers me the most about her, as troubling as her past is and her present, she laughs a lot when she talks about serious things. And it's really bothersome. Like, really bothersome. Did you see the clip of when she was asked about Julian Smollett? I believe that's how you say his name, on Saturday.
Jussie Smollett?
Jesse.
Yeah.
She was laughing.
I didn't see it. And I have to say that situation is one of those situations, because it's not going to have a big impact on policy decisions or anything. I took the luxury of just ignoring it because it's so disheartening and it's so ugly. I just want to kind of go through my life and not spend a ton of time dwelling on that, because if what it looks like happened, it's a mentality I can't get my head inside that somebody would do something like that.
Well, it's they asked her before this new shit was coming out.
Yeah.
At that point, she thought it would happen.
Everybody thought he was legitimately attacked.
Right. And they asked what, and she was like,
Yeah.
And she like looked at someone else, and then she's like, like she's not, you know, I don't like Obama, but you can't take away that he was very well spoken, very charismatic. She doesn't.
What did Biden say? What did Biden say? He was clean and articulate.
Clean and articulate.
Good one, Joey. But with Kamala, it's pretty clear. I think there is no person on the planet who hasn't uttered one of those laughs. Like when you make a joke to a room full of people and it completely falls flat, and you're just like,
oh yeah.
Right. It's defensive laughter because she's not coming up with the lie quickly enough, or she's hit with something she hasn't been scripted for. And these people are so programmed. You know, the establishment politicians. I mean, you saw the thing with Kristen Gillibrand not knowing how to eat chicken, or at least not having the confidence of her own instincts. She had to ask the woman who ran the restaurant if it was okay to pick up a piece of fried chicken. Now, I don't read like people saying, "Oh, she lives such a sheltered life that she doesn't know how to eat chicken." It's like, no, she's probably had a TV as a kid. You know, but the thing is, they are trained, and you see this over and over, trained to ignore any authentic instinct they have because they're so scared of putting a foot in the wrong place. Even when they had the object lesson of Donald Trump, who put every foot and a lot of other body parts in the wrong place and basically got away with it because he seemed authentic.
Yeah.
To some people, right? He seemed authentic to some people. And I think at the moment that words are spilling out of his pie hole, he may actually believe what he's saying.
I do too. I think he does.
The internal mental states of Donald Trump are something that's going to be studied for, I was going to say centuries, but I don't think we have centuries left. So it's just going to be a few decades before we check out. But yeah, I think I think from Kamala's standpoint, there's not. I haven't seen a single authentic thing from her ever.
No, not
and
at
to
all.
me, that's just a non-starter. And so she turned around tomorrow and said, "I'm fully embracing Medicare for all. I'm fully embracing, pulling out of our 27 wars or whatever we have. I'm fully embracing supporting a free Palestine." I would say, no, you're not. You're just saying what you think we need to hear.
Right. Absolutely.
So she's at a point of no return with me, at least. I'm just so glad that my congresswoman endorsed her.
Yeah. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing of don't take things for granted. When I moved to Berkeley, this area, this particular congressional district, this particular zip code of Alameda County was the most progressive zip code in the country by a lot of measures, including political donations. That was in 2008. And we had Barbara Lee, who cast that vote against Afghanistan that a lot of us just loved and applauded back in 2001. And we were like, Barbara Lee, good to go, locked and loaded, let's move on. And a lot of us haven't paid attention. And I've been noticing that when my congresswoman appears on television, she's usually standing behind a lot of rich white ladies, giving them cover for the hideous policies they're coming forth with. And the thing, as if the endorsement weren't enough, and the way that she endorsed it was absolute dishonest misrepresentation of Kamala's record. Yeah. But then she came out the next day and you saw that tweet about, we have to upgrade our marijuana laws. We have to, no one should go to jail for simple marijuana possession. I'm like, did you remember who you endorsed yesterday?
Yep. Hey, Kamala's come out and said that shit now.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, here you have someone, I mean, she's clearly fabricating her pot smoking story, right? because
obviously.
the timeline is worse than the X-Men universe.
Yeah.
But she didn't realize the really horrible thing, whether it was true or not. For you to come out and say, thinking it will have a positive impact, that you broke these laws when you were in college, and then you put, at last count, I saw 2,500 people a year into state prison, not just like some county jail, but San Quentin, for the same thing that you did. And you didn't even think that was problematic to say it. That's somebody who's deeply embedded in her own bullshit.
Yep. Absolutely. I said the same thing. And also, what does it say about, I mean, is that not stereotypical to think that you're going to win people of color by saying you smoked pot? Because that's what she was trying to do.
It's typical Democrat. And I saw a tweet tonight and I retweeted it, and I'm trying to remember who posted it. Right now I'm blanking on it, but he said this isn't designed to appeal to black people. Kamala isn't designed. She's not trying to appeal to black people. She's trying to appeal to white people who think they're great allies to black people. And Kamala is going to be their black friend, or their Jamaican friend. Kamala is going to be their black friend, and they can say, at the end of this, what that guy and get what tonight's not a good night for names, but the West Wing dude in Get Out said, I would have voted for Obama for a third term if I could have. And a lot of times Obama was there as well for wealthy white neoliberals to show everyone how woke they were. And it's the same thing with Kamala. Let's just show we've got our black friend, and we're gonna vote for her now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. The hot sauce pictures were just like, again, you saw Paul Krugman's tweet when he's like, well, this is how black people are. I'm like, seriously, Paul? Seriously, dude? If you were any whiter, you'd be transparent. And you're going to tell, it's why are you saying how black people were? I mean, if you tried to tell me how Italian people were, I'd get pissed off.
Yeah.
Because these people who live in these, these upper crust communities have no idea how any human who works for a living has to exist.
Well, I mean, that's a good point as well. What's that?
I just went,
I'm looking through these comments as well. You guys are killing me.
I'm not watching the comments, but yet another reason to hate Krugman, his awful economic beliefs aside. I don't need any more reason to hate Paul Krugman. He gave me all the reasons I needed in 2016 when he just went full on bullshit artist for that entire thing. And I just want to say, Paul, if you're watching, Hillary's never going to fuck you. I'm sorry.
Aw, don't break his heart.
No.
Break his heart on.
Break his what?
God. Nothing.
Yeah, I don't think he has one of those.
Okay, so people say that like Bernie bros are like racist and sexist. Yeah, okay. Even though the term Bernie bro is so fucking racist and sexist.
It's racist and sexist. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Someone said, and I don't know if this is true, is it true that the majority of Bernie's support now is from women and people of color?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't been following the statistics that closely, but yeah. So.
I shared one of my followers on Twitter. I shared her post. She's a woman of color and a huge Bernie supporter. And she broke it down. I just shared it earlier today, if you want to check it out.
Okay.
But yeah, and today there was this woman who was like talking about, well, first there was this white dude who was like, you're talking about Nina and she's not even a real black.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, this is how...
Nina Turner?
I mean, yeah. A real black.
Yeah.
I mean, and there was this guy earlier tonight who, you know, or this woman earlier tonight that was like, you know, Bernie's like the kind of guy who has a one-night stand with the dinner,
yeah.
and then doesn't want to be seen the next day with them.
Who will sleep with, who he treats the Democratic Party like a girl he'll sleep with but never take out in public. Which was a woman saying this. Mm-hmm. Which goes to show these people have no idea the bounds of decorum of anything. Did you see my response?
No.
Which was, and the Democrats treat us the way Bill Clinton treats women. We keep saying no, and they keep trying to fuck us.
My response to her was, oh, by the way, your girl's man is a rapist. Speaking of sleeping with.
Yeah.
Like, dude, the hypocrisy. Okay. And furthermore, it said that there's like 34,000 likes on that.
No.
That's what it says. And I'm like,
no.
How?
No.
So I went through and there were so many fake accounts.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is something that you have to do some real statistical spelunking to actually quantify that. You and I, as you know, human beings with functional brains, allegedly, can look at those and say fake, 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 fake. But if you actually want to go through and quantify, like Liking Online did last year with exposing the Sally Albright network, you have to run some serious statistical analysis on that. And that's something that I think is important and needs to be done. The thing we need to keep in mind is none of these people are very bright. And none of these people really understand tech or how to use tech deeply. And they have the fundamental handicap that we saw with Hillary, is they're not telling the truth. And when you're not telling the truth, people can always just find the truth. They can just say the truth. This is the thing that I was raising alarm bells with, and I was not the only one, but when I started seeing like the Daily Caller actually published some good journalistic writing on Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these outlets, Breitbart did some good informative stories on Hillary Clinton. And I was like, oh my God, these people haven't been able to tell the truth about a candidate for decades. And you just handed them this incredibly powerful weapon for the 2016 election. Kamala will be Hillary on steroids with that. And let's just say, since these people are crowing about the Oppo research, remember that? They were all getting all pearl clutchy about, what about all this opposition research on Bernie that never existed, as if Hillary would have crushing opposition research on Bernie and just decide not to use it in the primary.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is, the opposition research on Hillary was devastating. And the opposition research on Kamala is even more devastating. And she is going to get hit with the Willie Brown affair. She is going to get hit with covering of her pedophile priests. She is going to get hit with every objectionable thing that she's done. They won't even have to make up anything. They'll just paint her as who she is, like they did with Hillary, and that's all they'll need. What they do when they attack Bernie and they attack Tulsi Gabbard, they have to make shit up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we saw in WikiLeaks, you know, they were going to tried to paint Bernie as an atheist and stuff, I was like, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we know that Hillary paid off a lot of preachers in the South. We know that. That's a matter of record.
Yep.
And I guarantee you, I wasn't privy to any one of these conversations, but I would lay money that Bernie's ethnicity and his religious beliefs were right at the forefront in those conversations.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Which is gross. I mean, I was at the convention. I saw those T-shirts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The rat, the one you look like a rat.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Disgusting. I mean,
yeah. And yet, if you say that AIPAC lobbies politicians and gives them money, you're somehow anti-Semitic. This is the thing that I'm hoping, and when you're in the Twitter bubble or you're in the progressive bubble, like we are with people who are very interested and active in politics, you might have a skewed view. But I'm hoping those kind of tactics are becoming less and less effective as they overuse them. I mean, anyone saying that any lobbying group, any political action committee isn't giving money to politicians, I mean, or anyone exposing that, being accused of being anti-Semitic or racist. I mean, this is what killed Hillary's credibility. Facts were sexist in 2016. I have a feeling facts are going to be anti-Semitic up to the point when Bernie officially announces and all the Democrats start talking about how he stabbed them in the back.
Yeah.
Because we can apply, because anti-Semitism applies to the people we like. It doesn't apply to Bernie. Racism and sexism applies to the people we like. It doesn't apply to Tulsi Gabbard.
Right.
And I'm still somewhat on the fence with Tulsi Gabbard, but I think she's an ass kicker who tends to tell the truth, at least in my experience. I haven't seen videos of her as I've seen of Elizabeth Warren, where Elizabeth is just completely talking out of her ass. I haven't seen that from Tulsi Gabbard. I think she's got a lot of explaining to do about her record, but a lot of us understand growing up in an oppressive household and how long it takes you to detach from that experience. Yeah. And we've seen it, you know, with Kamala this week. I still, as much as I dislike Kamala, I hope her father gets taken apart for his behavior, because I think that just as a human being, that is shitty behavior.
Yeah. Kathy, that's what I'm talking about. I was at the convention, so I saw that rat face shirt. And you know what? Bernie has the best shirts. Like, I have literally 20 Bernie shirts, and they're all so cool and so different. And they have one, and that's what it is. No, sorry, that wasn't an accident. It was racist as fuck. It was anti-Semitic as fuck. What's that?
That was me saying again.
It was gross. That, you know, I posted about Kamala letting the pedophile slide a few times, and that's something that a lot of people don't know about.
They will.
Virginia was, you know how back in, I mean, like decades ago, when they would draw Jewish men to look like rats, like they would be like real, like, bleh, and just look like rat faces. They made Bernie look like that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, he just looked. If you can Google Bernie DNC t-shirt and you'll see it, and it's horrifying. And this was approved official DNC t-shirt. So.
And then Queen Hillary's shirt was a picture from like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Where she looks pretty. And I'm like, yeah, okay. That's not on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the thing is, and this gets back to the holding your feet to the fire and putting your hopes in politicians. people want them. We want them to be good people, right? But they aren't. And like we're seeing with police officers, the job is almost guaranteed to attract the worst people to do the job. I mean, how many people like Bernie Sanders are there in politics? No one I can think of at that level. And let's face it, Bernie isn't all that either. You know, he's okay, but if he were in Europe, he'd be center, if not center right. And all he's doing is proposing the most moderate and mild reforms that every other country has done. And in this country, the wealthy look at, you know, having to give up one nickel of wealth they can never possibly spend in their life, and they lose their frickin' minds.
Yeah, when you're talking about taxing billionaires, middle class people lose their shit. It doesn't even affect them. Who
was the one that said in the early 1900s? Somebody in the comments help me out here. Said the problem with the American people is they don't see themselves as sort of exploited workers. They see themselves as temporarily disadvantaged millionaires. And I think a lot of people have bought into that American dream that was, you know, and it's got worse with Ronald Reagan, because the American dream, and I know this, my family lived this coming out of World War II, the American dream was never to be a billionaire. The American dream was never to be a millionaire. We have the phrases, a car in every garage, a chicken in every pot, the house with the white picket fence. They wanted a very modest lifestyle where they didn't have to worry about their kids dying of a treatable illness or starving or not having clean water. That's all most of the people wanted. And it got really perverted, you know, it started to get perverted a little bit before the Reagan administration. But that's where it really took off, that the American dream was to be rich. And people don't seem to realize how the law of large numbers works. Not everybody can be rich. You know, not every coin can come up heads every time. And so
unless it's Iowa and you're Hillary.
Yes, unless it's Iowa and you're Hillary, right? That was
sorry.
She has control over coins. If she actually did have control over coins, I'd vote for her.
6 out of 6.
Yeah.
Totally feasible.
It is feasible, but what happened later on, I mean, you can flip six out of 6 coins and have them come up heads. What you can't do is have millions of votes violate the margin of error of every exit poll at 1,000,000,000,000 to 1 odds. While the Republican exit polls were dead on balls accurate. Done by the same company at the same time. I'm just going to keep saying things while you're drinking until shit actually comes out your nose.
Don't say balls and stuff while I'm drinking. It's going to come out my nose.
Okay. Yeah, that would be the good thing to end on, I think.
I agree.
Soda out your nose.
That would be impressive. YouTube views, just shut up. What are your...
I think it was Steinbeck. I think it was John Steinbeck who said that. Somebody.
I think you're right.
Okay.
I digress. This wine cooler's pretty hardcore.
Oh. I'm drinking Turkish coffee.
That is the hugest coffee cup I've ever seen in my life.
An entire mug of Turkish coffee, just because I needed to power my brain on a little bit for this one. You see, I'm still can't remember shit, so I'm a little bit I'm a little bit dazed and confused.
What do you want to leave our viewers with? What do you want them to take away from the show?
And I don't know. I didn't think of a great concluding remark, but I think people need to realize that we're at the point where electoral politics are not going to fix this for us. We are not going to fix this by electing the right person to office and holding their feet to the fire. And the one thing I do agree with Trolley Ed is I don't think Bernie has a shot. I don't think Bernie has a shot. I don't think he will ever be allowed to win the Democratic nomination because too many people have too much money that depends on him not winning the Democratic nomination. And you know the people we're talking about. You know, we're talking about all of the big DC grifters that are running around Twitter, and you would have to have all of them simultaneously, like the Center for American Progress and the David Brocks and the Cher Blues and the game theory dude and all of that other stuff. They would have to simultaneously say, okay, well, we'll give up our dishonest living and go do something else, even though we lack the intellect or talent to do anything else. You know, if that earthquake were ever to happen, then Bernie would have a shot. But that's, if you just lay it out that way, that's not going to happen. So I think we need to, yes, let's work really hard. Let's get Bernie as much support as he can. And specifically, and this is a thing I learned with Barbara Lee, because I will admit I liked Barbara Lee. I supported her because I thought she was a good person. I'm not going to be a Bernie supporter anymore. I'm going to be a Bernie policy supporter. And that's where we have to go. And if Bernie moves away from those policies, as much as I personally like the guy, he's not going to be my candidate. But then you have no one. And the thing that we have to do is realize, work really hard to change what you can in the electoral process. But also understand that it is not nearly enough to put in place the change that we have to put in place. You know, at this point, for simple survival, if that's even possible. And so while it's fun to fight on Twitter and it's fun to see, you know, all of the cell phones that every one of these neoliberals puts up just on their own without any help, that is entertainment. And what we really need to do is get our hands dirty and start everyone being activists, and not the kind of activists to march with their knitted pussy hats, you know, on one designated day of the year. We need to get in people's faces, and we need to start making their lives very difficult and very uncomfortable. And if we don't do that, we're kind of going to get steamrolled.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, okay. Mark, put your Twitter link. Mark is the greatest. We love Mark so much. He's a teammate. He's awesome, and he makes me laugh.
Admit it, Mark was the one who thought I was good looking, right? I see you, Mark. I see your work.
So I have another surgery in 10 days, so I'm going to be doing a few shows until then, but only one is scheduled, a few may be sporadic, or maybe not at all. But this Friday, I have Graham Elwood coming back.
Graham is awesome.
I love him so much.
If you're watching, Graham, hi, Graham. I'll see you when I'm in LA.
Graham, I love you.
Yeah,
so awesome. He's coming back Friday at a special time at 5:30 Eastern because he's on tour right now with Ron. So he'll be coming Friday at 5:30. Other than that, I'll keep you guys updated if something comes up. But other than that, it may just be like one or two more shows before my surgery, and then I'll have a little hiatus. But thank you guys so much for watching. And unless something, you know, some show comes up, you know, spontaneously, I will see you guys Friday at 5:30 Eastern. Thanks so much for joining me again.
Thanks for inviting me back.
Absolutely. Right. Check out the comments then too, because you're getting some love.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Take care, guys.